What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Monday, December 13th, not November 13th, as I said the first time I tried to open the show. And I am here to break down, or we're here to break down, Cardinals and Rams, a fantastic NFC West matchup with a lot on the line, actually. Joining me to do so, Tyler Sullivan. Sully, what's up, buddy?
What's going on? Well, yeah, this is a good one. This is a really good one. Playoff tickets could be punched tonight. I like it.
Yeah, that's right. So wait, go on. What are the Cardinals?
Just the Cardinals win.
And Cardinals win the division?
Playoff berth.
Playoff berth. Okay. All right, there we go. I hadn't looked at the scenarios yet. Cardinals are the 1 seed. They are trying to maintain a lead over the Packers and the Bucks. Huge game for them. As you mentioned, they can clinch their playoff berth and really set up a good possibility of making a run at home field advantage, as we detailed on the Sunday night recap show, which you can listen to. In the podcast feed. They have the Cardinals have a weird schedule coming down the stretch because they have Rams tonight at Lions, Colts at home, at Cowboys, and Seahawks at home. All of those are winnable, and all but one of those are losable. And even the Lions game, I guess technically, isn't a guarantee. So the Cardinals at 10-2 could make this. Kyler's back, playing well. Everybody's healthy. It feels like they can make a push down the stretch and finish with an all-time great season for the franchise in the number 1 seed, or collapse and it was the 4 seed or something, or the 6 seed, 5 seed. I mean, I think there's a lot on the table for the Cardinals. Is my point.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's a lot on the line for the Rams here too. I mean, we're talking about a division where the Cardinals are obviously the class of this at the moment, and the number 1 seed. But you have the 49ers kind of getting hot here. This is not something where it's, okay, we can easily get into this playoff scenario. There are 3 teams in the AFC West, the NFC West, that could easily make this playoff. And all of a sudden, if you have the 49ers starting to kind of get hot now, it's a little concerning if you're the Rams.
Yeah, if you're the Rams and you lose to the Cardinals tonight, you are 8-5. The 49ers are 7-6. And, it looks more than likely that both those teams will get in. It's certainly not guaranteed. But I guess 5 and 6 negligible in terms of where you end up being seated. But I mean, the point being is, if you're the Rams, you want to stop. You stopped your slide last week. You'd like to keep stopping your slide.
Right. They got put through the car wash, though. It was an easy freebie going through to playing Jacksonville. They were not looking good over that 3-game losing streak. No. And offensively, it was a real concern for them. So again, it'll be interesting to see what they look like tonight. During that 3-game losing streak, all those teams are currently in the playoffs, and they just happen to have the Jaguars next up on the schedule. So I don't even really know how much have they turned the corner? Does it really, all it takes is just playing the Jaguars to kind of get yourself right? Or do they revert back to that team that was struggling against superior competition?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an unknown. And that's probably why this line is where it is, right? We have the Cardinals -2.5 at home. I think the Rams are probably getting more action from people just because, I don't know, underdog. I don't know. The Cardinals are -2.5. The total's 51. What are your thoughts on how this game plays out?
See, I'll gladly take the spread here. When you're talking about a team that is 9-3 against the spread, tied for the second best in the NFL, you're talking, it's not that much, especially when we don't know about the Rams right now, where yes, they played the Jaguars, they look great, but every team looks great against the Jaguars. When they actually played playoff opponents, they lost their last 3. They're under 500 against the spread this season. I have a lot more questions about the Rams than I do the Cardinals right now. And if it's under this key number, under a field goal here, I'm more than happy to lay the points.
Yeah, very good points. 9-3 against the spread. The Cardinals have just been undervalued all year long. I mean, they were, I was thinking about this the other day. It was making me mad because last year I picked them to win the division and got mocked for it basically all season. And this year they did what it's like, you're right, but you're not really right, and you're a year early, and so no one even thinks about it or cares. It's very frustrating. I wish I want to be like, you want to get the year. Nobody cares that I picked the Cardinals last year. It's like, big deal. Like, congratulations, you didn't do very well. Anywho, I'm taking the Rams, and I don't. I think it's a little bit of a principal play. It's sort of the close division game late in the year. Rams, I feel like are. And I agree with you. The Jaguars doesn't prove anything at all. They're terrible. I mean, the Jaguars are, could have fired Urban Meyer by the time we finish recording this, for all we know. They're a terrible football team. The Rams didn't play that well offensively against those 3 opponents. So I think we'll know fairly quickly into this game if the Rams are going to come out gunslinging or if Arizona can figure out what Sean McVay is calling on offense, because that's sort of been the bugaboo, is that he gets a little stale with his play calling, becomes predictable. Teams are able to stop them defensively, and it makes, it made Jared Goff look bad in the past, and now it's making Matthew Stafford look bad late in the season. So I think that would be the concern. Total wise, I mean, like, this is a great game, and I can't wait to watch it, and I'm going to gamble on it. But like, I don't have a strong lean to either side, frankly, to the side or the total in this one. I like I have the Rams as the best bet. I like the Rams to win outright, but I totally understand why somebody, yourself included, would want to get behind the Cardinals at -2.5. You're basically just saying, go win the game, Arizona, at home in prime time against an opponent that has struggled against playoff teams recently. So I don't have any problem with it. I'll take the Rams, and I guess I would have a hard time betting this under, probably.
See, I don't mind going the under here, just because you have the defenses that are playing really good. I know, obviously you're gonna, you're immediately drawn to Matthew Stafford and Kyler Murray and both of these offenses that are very capable of lighting up the scoreboard. But you do have defenses here that have been pretty strong throughout the season. Arizona is allowing 18.7 points per game. That's the fourth fewest in the NFL. The Rams, they're allowing 5.1 yards per play this season, which is the fourth lowest in the NFL. So these guys have been able to limit their opponents. Again, both very tough offenses, but it's not out of the realm of possibility here that this turns into kind of one of those lower scoring games where the defenses start to make an impact. I mean, you have Aaron Donald going up against Kyler Murray, and then all those guys in Arizona going up against what could be still a struggling Rams offense. So to me, I still think it's certainly possible that this game goes a little bit under than what we're thinking.
Yeah, and 51 is a big enough number where if it gets out to a slow start, it's going to be hard to get there. And you can also, you have the potential where, maybe you take the full game under, you don't get a bunch of you don't get scores in the first quarter, some field goals. Both these coaches so Cliff Kingsbury and Sean McVay are young, handsome, offensive minded, considered aggressive, but in reality, they are both extremely conservative. They're like younger Pete Carrolls. They don't go for it on fourth downs where they probably should. They're more than willing to settle for field goals close to the goal line. So you can you get this high total because you got these splashy offenses, but you can sort of find a way to get, low points early on, particularly if they're settling for field goals, longer drives. And then maybe you come back in the second half and do a second half over where you get a window where you can hit both. Or, if it's a bunch of points in the first half or, on pace, then you just try to ride it out, because it's entirely possible that we just don't. I mean, it's just entirely possible we don't see a ton of points scored in this game. That would not be insane.
No, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Again, I lean on the under. You can see it obviously where it happens. I mean, and again, kind of going back to this losing streak thing. Again, I just think that this Jaguars, it's you're easy to overlook it. They dropped like 37 points last week, so you think everything's fine. But again, it's the Jaguars.
Everything's fine, Sully. Everything's fine with my Rams. Everything's fine.
You go to the Jags over that losing streak, though. They're averaging 18 points per game on offense. It's so okay. We're ramping up the competition now. It's getting later in the year. You're on the road. What is it going to look like here for Matthew Stafford in this big spot?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, it's fair. I want to look and see. So they had, yeah. I mean, lit up making points. So let's just looking at from week 6 on, when they got through their first slate, they beat the Seahawks 26-17. That's week 5, excuse me. Week 6 beat the Giants. Week 7 beat the Lions. Week 8 beat the Texans. Oh boy. Those are not good football teams.
No.
In fact, very bad football teams. Week 9, lose to the Titans. Week 10, lose to the Niners. Bye, lose to the Packers, and then beat the Jaguars. So, yeah, I mean, you could make the case that they have, aside from that Buccaneers win way back in week 3, which is sort of Sean McVay's Super Bowl, that they haven't really beaten anybody of substance this year. I mean, they beat the Colts, I guess. Colts and Bucks. But those are sort of early. Yeah, you can make a case. There's a good case for this. Don't like it. They're going to have to beat some good teams on the stretch because they have Arizona, Seattle, Minnesota, Baltimore, and San Francisco. We think some of those teams are good. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll do some player props. I got to be honest. Looking at that the Rams schedule kind of makes me rethink my decision process here. I'm a little worried. Are the Rams frauds?
They've been beaten up on bad teams. It's not exactly what you want, especially when they're losing to the good teams.
I mean, they have 8 wins and 5 of them are against Chicago, New York, Detroit, Houston, and Jacksonville. And they beat the crap out of those teams. Like they wasn't even close. Like they're smashing these bad teams. And then just the Tennessee and the San Francisco, the Tennessee game is the one that gets me, to be perfectly honest. And maybe Green Bay to a larger extent, but like San Francisco. Anyway, we don't need to talk about this ad nauseum, but like San Francisco before the bye, San Francisco was desperate, and they came out. They brought their A game, right? I mean, I think it was it was Monday Night Football in San Francisco. Green Bay, pretty tough place to play, freezing weather, and Aaron Rodgers also brought his A game, and then the Titans are scoring 16 points on the Titans in that Sunday night game was weird. Without Derrick Henry.
Yeah. And didn't he throw that brutal
the pick six?
Yeah, that pick six, yeah.
Yeah. And they just got behind early. I don't know. I can make excuses for the Rams all day long, probably, but I won't. Instead, let's get to some props. What do you have on the old prop card coming out of early on? I only had a couple.
Ooh, well, I'll go right there with Matthew Stafford because I think Stafford's going to throw an interception tonight. So, sure. That one to me, I think makes a lot of sense because, again, he's been a little careless with the football as of late. I think he has 5 interceptions over his last 4 games. It just been a little bit loose more than my liking. I think the Cardinals have a secondary that's a little bit more, that's opportunistic enough that's able to take advantage of that poor throw, of that miscue by Stafford to get that interception. And at minus 120, I'll take that. I'll take that value.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all. Stafford is more than willing to be aggressive, more than willing to turn the ball over. Arizona has an opportunistic defense with lots of playmakers, and they have a good pass rush, right? So they can get pressure on him and force him to make throws that he doesn't want to make. If that happens, he'll probably turn the ball over. He's a streaky quarterback, as streaky as they come. And, minus 120 seems fairly likely that we see at least one interception. Now, maybe he comes in and has a monster primetime game and it keeps a clean sheet and you lose the bet, but you're not paying a ton of juice, and all you need is one. I mean, really, you don't even need like a bad throw. You just need a mistake by a receiver. That could happen easily. In fact, it probably happened on a communication issue with the guy from my over that I got, Odell Beckham, over receiving yards, 46.5. I don't necessarily think that OBJ is going to clear this by a massive margin. But I think it should be in the 50s or closer to 50 for his total. And I would anticipate that, we're going to see 5-6 targets OBJ's way. There's a decent chance the Rams won't be able to run aggressively. We're not. God, I'm terrible at my job, obviously. The Rams injury report might be worth looking at because I believe that Darrell Henderson is he not? He's out, right?
Not going to be playing. I believe COVID protocols.
Yeah, I think he's in COVID protocol. So Sonny Michel wasn't listed. He's not on the injury report either, but he wasn't listed on the props for whatever reason for rushing yards. I don't know why they didn't throw any rushing yards his way. Maybe there's a possibility Henderson clears and I just missed it. Really, there's not a ton of injuries related to the offensive skill players and key guys in this game. Although Andrew Whitworth. Did not practice on Saturday. He didn't carry a designation, so he's fine.
The number one thing you probably have to look at in terms of skill position guys would be Chase Edmonds, whether or not he's going to be activated tonight or not. That's the one, because again, when you look at these props here, you're not going to see James Conner. You're not going to see any rushing yard stuff for the Cardinals in terms of the backs because you just don't know what the status of Edmonds is. The last I heard, it was game time decision for him. Again,
and he's on IR, so it would be one of those things we've seen all season long where it's like, you have to be activated off IR first by 4:30 p.m. And then activated for the actual game. So as with props and with DraftKings stuff, and we'll have a separate video for that. But you just don't know, and you can't know. And you're not going to see any James Conner props or any Chase Edmonds props. You're just not going to see them, right? They didn't put any reception props up to, and I missed them today because if they did, and you could bet under on receiving, no, those ghouls. Of course they didn't. Let's say if you give it under on receiving props for James Conner, those would be good if Chase Edmonds was activated.
Yeah.
Because Conner has taken on the full-time, but what they did when Edmonds got hurt, what they were doing was Edmonds would basically take all the carries for all the snaps or most of the snaps from the 20 to the 20. And as soon as they got in the red zone, they would just start handing the ball off to Conner, maybe sometimes throw it to him, but mostly just run the ball with him in the red zone. And it was a really good, and I don't know if it was, I guess it was efficient. I mean, it was working really well. And then when Evans got hurt, they just said, all right, Connor, here's you get them all. They just didn't change anything. They just let Connor have all the snaps, and he's turned into a kind of a dynamic receiving back. So I think if Edmonds was back and not on a pitch count, there's a good opportunity to take the under on Connor receiving props. But I doubt that we'll see them until, right? I mean, we're not going to see any of those things pop up until we know about Chase Edmonds, because they don't want to get burnt on those.
Yeah, probably not. For me, again, it's one thing to keep an eye out there too. I still, regardless whether Edmonds is playing or not, I like Kyler Murray going over that rushing total of 26.5 at plus money. To me, that one, he's only done it 3 times this season. He's obviously missed time and all that, but he went over it last week, 50 plus rushing yards. I think he had like 10 carries in that game last week, but more so than anything, this could be a game where he starts scrambling around a little bit more. Aaron Donald breathing down his throat. He's moving around the pocket a little bit more. So you could get it through a design run, sure, but also he's just going to be moving around with the pressure that the Rams are going to be giving him.
I don't think it is by accident that Kyler Murray comes back from injury and has his most rushing attempts of the year against a defense that at least is capable of putting pressure on him in the pocket. Yeah. And I would think that, so it's sort of, I guess it's a little counterintuitive that if you're hurt, you want to run more. But the idea being that if you sit in the pocket and don't run, you might be more susceptible to that pressure, and that pressure could lead to sacks, could lead to, you don't want to take hits. And Kyler Murray can get away from hits, which is why you saw him run 10 times for 59 yards last week. I mean, by far, he hadn't run more than 7 times all year long.
Yeah.
What if Kyler just goes back to being running Kyler again what if he just starts running 10 to 15 times a game like he did last year, and all of a sudden he just is putting up video? He's going to win every single person who has him a fantasy title if he just starts doing that.
That is a hero on the way out, right?
Yeah, sometimes I just, sometimes those things just click. I wonder if just look real quick. I don't know. It's worth I think this might be the only, if they have it up. Let's see, MVP bets. Oh God, Tom Brady's minus 150 now at Caesars. Aaron Rodgers 6-1. Kyler Murray 9-1. I mean,
the thing that hurts Kyler the most, I think, obviously the numbers will be, ridiculous just because he's awesome. But the fact that they kept winning games with him gone, I think is going to, in a lot of voters' minds, really put him down a couple of pegs.
I don't know if I can bet on 9-1 if he misses multiple games and Colt McCoy wins twice while he's gone. He misses 3 games and then Colt McCoy goes 2-1. Yeah, it's going to be tough to do. I'm just thinking I don't know. Brady's probably going to win it. Brady's been unbelievable. He's still chunking the ball around. They're winning. They got the Panthers twice left, and he's going to run up. He wants to win MVP at 40. Yeah, I don't think he bet Kyler at 9-1, unless you think he just this is there's the Heisman moment opportunity on Monday night here, where if Kyler just goes nuclear, like 300, 100, and all of a sudden, the Cardinals clinch a playoff berth first, or looking to lock up the 1 seed. If they locked up the 1 seed, he might have a shot, but probably pass on that. Give me some more props that we're head to head on one on Van Jefferson.
I know, Van Jefferson. I like that. To me, I like the value here more than anything. You're getting it for, plus 100 for somebody that's been more involved since the Robert Wood injury is gone down. Obviously, they've been kind of moving OBJ in a little bit slowly. So maybe it's a game where all of a sudden you start to really see Odell Beckham become that number 2 guy. But I think Van Jefferson has shown that he is a very capable receiver in this offense. Last week, I believe he was targeted, if I have it right in front of me, he's been targeted 7.8 times over the last 4 games. He's had 6 catches last week, I think, on 8 targets. He's just been one of those guys for Matthew Stafford in a game where he might have to throw a little bit. I think that Van Jefferson's going to be that guy. And it kind of correlates to my other one real quick. I'll let you obviously go with what you like the under on Van Jefferson. But to me, Cooper Kupp, I like the over on his receiving yards. It's a huge number at 90.5. The only other time he hasn't gone over that.
Reminiscent of Thursday night, Sully. There's no way Justin Jefferson's not going over this number. He should have gone over it, by the way.
Well, I'll tell you though, the only time Cooper Kupp hasn't gone over this number is against the Arizona Cardinals back in week 4. It's the only other time this season he hasn't done it. So, again, it's a little bit of a hedge where I'm going over on receptions and over on Kupp, because honestly, if Cooper has one of those slow outings again, like he did in week 4, and for some reason the Cardinals just have his number. Van Jefferson, in my mind, is going to be that guy that Matthew Stafford throws to if things aren't working with Kupp, and that's only going to, give me, again, plus 100. I'll get plus money on that. I like the kind of how that correlates. It saves me a little bit. Both guys could do it, but I feel like if Cooper has one of those slower nights, Van Jefferson might be the beneficiary.
Cooper Kupp's over-under for receptions is 7.5, and that is absurd.
I mean, all of it's huge, but then you start to look at it and you research a little bit more, and you're like, well, he's actually hit it like 90% of the time.
I actually think I would almost lean over on receptions as opposed to the receiving yards, even though I don't know if he can get to 8 catches and not get over 90 receiving yards, because on the season he's averaging. I mean, he leads the NFL in catches, yards, and touchdowns. He's on pace for the Triple Crown, 13.7 yards per catch. So what do you need? 91. Let's just assume his normal route. I mean, you really only need 6.5 catches, right? Or 7 catches, and you get there. 7.5 is, man, that is. I mean, he's had one game all season long, and it was a beatdown of Houston where he didn't have 10 targets. And
I mean, even in that game against Arizona, where he had his worst statistical outing, he had 13 targets.
Yeah, 13 targets, 5 catches, 64 yards, no touchdowns. They just didn't. He also had like a catch percentage of 38.5 in that game, which is very bizarre. Just that he suddenly just wasn't catching anything. The Van Jefferson thing, I don't. On the 4.5, it's really more about. I just think the numbers are like it should probably be 3.5. I think, and I think he ends up with like right around 4, either 3 or 4 catches. Yep. Now he got 6 against Jacksonville. But it was in limited snaps. I only played 78% of the snaps. I don't think that 78% is indicative that they're phasing him out at all, because in Odell's first 2 games at San Francisco on Monday night, obviously Odell didn't play a ton. Van Jefferson, 95% of the snaps, and then at Green Bay, 98% of the snaps. So I still think they're just going to use these 3 wide receiver sets. And you're right, he does sort of replace Robert Woods in that sense, but you just see there's a lot of paths to where he just ends up with 3 or 4 catches.
Yeah.
And maybe 6 last week is the outlier. But yes, if they come out of the gates dinking and dunking to Van Jefferson, I'm going to be panicked about my under, because I mean, you get 2 catches in the first half and you're feeling dead in the water. I don't want to take unders on anything Rams related, just because Stafford can. They could come out hot and slinging the ball around, and if they do that, you're going to see the numbers pile up quickly. Or they come out and don't sling the ball around. Arizona gets a lead, and then they're forced to throw a bunch, and it's just, there's a lot of paths to them going over those totals on those props. I don't want to bet a bunch of the overs, because I think these numbers are all big.
Yeah,
but I don't mind that Kupp over 90.5 receiving yards. I mean, I would bet you by the time that, let me see what's that on my site now, 93.5. I mean, all these numbers are going to be artificially pushed up because people want to bet the overs in these games, and it's just not out of the realm of possibility that some of these easily go over the total, just because of, you just have 2 offenses that can score quickly and are explosive and have tons of playmakers, even against good defenses. Rondell Moore, one more I'll look at is Rondell Moore. What was he at? 24.5.
I was looking at him. It's just
I like that. I'm gonna add that over for me. Rondell Moore over 24.5 receiving yards.
He concerns me. I love him. I think he's great. He just concerns me a little bit, especially when you start to have DeAndre Hopkins back. You might get Chase Edmonds back. There's a lot more. Zach Ertz is now in this offense. There's just a lot of mouths to feed.
Oh yeah.
And I start to wonder, okay, what's going on? With Rondell Moore. Is it going to be a Christian Kirk game? Is it going to be is Andy Isabella going to get a target, and that ruins it for you? So it's
how dare you? Yeah, I know you're 100%. You're not wrong at all. Okay, so I'm going to go with OBJ over receiving yards, Van Jefferson under receptions, and Rondell Moore over receiving yards. 24.5 is my 3 official plays. You've got Kyler Murray over 26.5 rushing yards, Matthew Stafford over a half interception, Van Jefferson over 4.5 receptions at plus money, and Cooper Kupp over 90.5 receiving yards. Let's look at some. We did break all this. Yeah, let's look at some first touchdown props.
And this one's where it gets a little bit, skewed, because James Conner obviously is not going to be. I don't know if he's listed on here, but it's because Chase Edmonds game time decision. We don't necessarily know what's going to happen with him, so that's kind of throwing the numbers out of whack a little bit.
So yeah, you're 100% correct. This happens every freaking game. It's annoying. I will tell you this. One, I have on my local. I've got Sonny Michel 6.5 to 1, James Conner 6.5 to 1, Cooper Kupp 6.5 to 1. And then I've also got DeAndre Hopkins at 10 to 1, which I bet just out of principle. I mean, 10 to 1 Hopkins. What are we doing?
Yeah, because I think
the favorite. They're at home. He's the number one receiver on the team. I feel like Hopkins should be 6.5 to 1.
I almost feel like that's what he is at Caesars.
He is 8.5 to 1 at Caesars.
8.5, okay.
But still, I mean, 6. I think that number ends up being inside of 10 by the time this thing closes. I'm also, looking at it on my site, and we talked about this a bunch, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but there are now, I'm counting, oh my God, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys inside 15 to 1. I mean, what are we doing? Like, that's ridiculous. It used to be there were like 3 guys inside 15 to 1, and everybody else would be 20 to 1 or better. I mean, Christian Kirk's 15 to 1, AJ Green's 14. Just got logged out. Great. Anyway, the
Rondale Moore is 18 to 1. That shouldn't be the case.
Correct. So, all right. Cardinals there are 2 guys above 20 to 1 listed on Caesars. 2. That's insane. The mathematical odds of that, it don't work out. Rondale Moore, Zach Ertz, Christian Kirk, Kyler Murray, AJ Green, DeAndre Hopkins. That is 6 players from the Cardinals inside 18 to 1. And then for the Rams, you have Sony Michel, Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham, Van Jefferson, Tyler Higbee. You have 5. So you have, I mean, they're just saying we don't want you to win tons of money on this.
Yeah.
Is it like when the DraftKings CEO come out and he's like, we don't want winners. This is an entertainment business. Like, what? Excuse me? I mean, I'm here for both, but I mean,
I was gonna say, I don't know about that. I'd like to win money.
Yeah, I mean, I am entertaining myself, but I'm entertaining myself by risking my money and hoping that I win money. If I don't win money, this is not entertaining. Like, it is extremely not like anti-entertaining if I'm losing money all the time gambling. Anyway.
Yeah. And so for me, I like Kyler Murray. I'm right there with you. That to me, I think both of those, bets make a lot of sense, even though we don't know the status of James Conner or Chase Edmonds. To me, 12 to 1 there, someone who's been running a little bit more, had 10 rushes last week, is someone who can make plays with his feet
too, I believe, right?
It's so yeah, exactly. And so again, that one to me is my most favorite prop, I think, of this game.
Yeah, I was surprised to see him at 12 to 1. He, look, if they're going to shrink these markets and compress these prices, and that's fine. I mean, that's their prerogative as the book that's offering them to us. I mean, I think relative to what we're seeing out there, Kyler Murray should be 8 to 1 or 7 to 1 or even 6 to 1 because Kyler Murray runs the ball in the red zone. We saw, he had the first 2 touchdowns against the Bears, a touchdown pass to Hopkins and then a Kyler rush. I'm trying to think exactly when I remember the exact play where it happened because it was a longer rush, I think. But I'm trying to think if it was what down it was on because all right, here we go. 3rd and 9 at the Chicago 9. I think they're just going to use him a little bit more. That's right. Andy Dalton was intercepted and returned by Budda Baker to the return 77 yards. And so they got the ball on the 15. The very first play, they ran Kyler left in for 8 yards. And then on the 3rd and 9, and they picked up first down. Then on the 3rd and 9 from I guess there was a penalty on Zach Ertz, but a 3rd and 9 from the 9, they run Kyler again. I guess I'm just sort of wondering how much of, I think they might run him more in the red zone here.
Well, I think it's a little bit almost like the opposite of what we saw at Russell Wilson earlier this season when he came back from the finger injury. He came back a little bit too early, was a little bit inconsistent throwing the football over the first 2 games, and kind of took him a while to get back into rhythm. It's kind of been the opposite with Kyler Murray. They've taken their time with him. I mean, the fact that they were able to get out to such a great record and continue to win without him, it gave them that flexibility to say, all right, we can take our time. We have the bye coming up. We can kind of really massage this thing to have you fully healthy on the way back. So now that he's back, you can really kind of go pretty crazy with it.
Yeah, I think they're gonna. I think it looks like, and I mean, I remember watching this in the Bears game, but it does look like they may make a concentrated effort to use his legs more than they did early in the season. And if that continues tonight, which very well could, if you're dealing with the pressure you get from Aaron Donald and you want to force the Rams into force the Rams into dealing with more than just the pass game. I think, yeah. And the larger point is Kyler Murray, anything above 10-1 is a good price for first touchdown scored. And I would bet that it closes much lower than that. You've got, you want to see if Chase Edmonds is going to be activated. Was that going to be?
Well, that was just more of a note, just like, hey, like, let's see what happens with that. Because again, if it's going to change James Conner, it's going to change Kyler Murray, it's going to change a lot of these guys and move everybody around. So it's just something to keep an eye on there. The only other one that I really want to pay a ton of attention to is Van Jefferson at 10-1. I know you have him too. He's just someone who he's get touchdowns the last 2 games. Someone that Stafford's looking at there. It's just one, if we're looking at from a Rams standpoint, from a value standpoint as well, he's someone that I'm paying attention to.
Yep, don't mind him at all. Tyler Higbee, 13-1. They use Higbee in a bunch of screens in the red zone. They're not afraid to leak him out. You have 4 guys, I mean, in obviously receivers in Jefferson, Odell Beckham, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, who are all viable red zone targets for Matthew Stafford. And if you're going to give me the 13-1 on him, I'll take it. I also think that Zach Ertz at 13-1 is a perfectly, relative to what we're getting, like you would prefer both Higbee and Ertz be 20-1, right? But I mean, I don't mind either one of those guys at 13-1. Don't take Matthew Stafford. I don't think he's scored yet. Ben Skowronek, 35-1. Come on, man. He's got to be like 100-1. What are we doing? 35-1 for that guy? Get out of here. I mean, Rondale Moore used to be 35-1. Okay, and then as I said, yeah, I just think tight ends and quarterbacks in these primetime slates just have paid off well. And Ertz and Higbee have been pretty dynamic red zone weapons for their respective quarterbacks. If Jefferson's the same price as Odell Beckham, I guess I would stick with Jefferson. I can't see OBJ being a red zone weapon per se, but it is also very possible, if not even likely, that they design some shot plays for Odell Beckham early. So that would be the one thing I worry about is they try to get him going because they want to show him off. And by the way, did they lose a bunch of games as soon as they got Odell Beckham and Von Miller? Isn't that what happened? The dream team sort of move.
When they were all in, as the tweet said.
All in. Don't splash the pot, Rams. You're splashing the pot. All right. That's it for the podcast version of this show and for all the picks against the spread and, of course, the first touchdown props and the gambling stuff. We will have a separate YouTube video on youtube.com/pick6 where we break down all of the DFS action. So go check that out. Thanks for listening. For Sully and Brinson, see you guys later.